Hey guys! Okay, so our next video here is about something called measures of center. So when we're looking at real life data and we have all these numbers in front of us that somebody has gone out and found, um, we often like to find the center of the data. Like where's the middle point? And we kind of have three main ways of doing this. When it comes down to like the mathematical part of this, I like to think of these three ways. So underneath, we're going to make a list of the three ways. One of them is called the mean, and we've already practiced this in a previous video. I hope you've seen that video already, but we also call this the average. So often you'll get all these numbers and they'll say, okay, go find the average or go find the mean. Okay, add them all up and divide. But there's two other ways we can find the measure of the center. The second way is called finding the mode. And mode is just the mathematical way of saying find the number that you see the most. What number shows up the most in the data? And sometimes there is no mode. It just kind of depends. And then there's a third type we call it the median. The median. And the median is the mathematical way of saying find the exact middle of the data. What number's in the middle? Now, a lot of people get these mixed up. They forget what mode and median mean, because you might learn it one day and then like 10 days later someone says find the mode and you're like, how do I do that again? I can't remember. So for me, I've had to kind of develop a trick in my head so I wouldn't forget, because I too would forget this really easily. Here's my trick that I like to use. I always remember mode starts with mo. So mode. Well, I also remember that most starts with mo. So I always remember mode and most go together. So anytime someone says, find the mode, I'm like, mode, most. Okay, find the most of. That's just kind of my way of doing it. And then median, I always remember is M for median, and a D is right in the middle of the word, median. So same with the word middle, middle. There's actually two D's in the middle of that one. But I always remember the M and the D, so median, middle, kind of like sticks in my head that way. You're going to want to find some way to get it kind of stuck up there, because it's going to be like a month from now, or it might be next year, next school year, that a teacher says, okay, go find the mode or the median. And then you're like sitting there like, I know I've learned this, but what is it again? So you need to really find a way to like make sure you can re-click and get that information back. That's hard to do. So mo means most, mode most, and median with the MD means middle. But we need to practice. We haven't even shown how to do these yet, so we need to practice that next. So underneath, I'm just going to write a quick definition of what we have here. These are the three ways of describing the typical value of data. So when you're given a bunch of numbers, these are the very typical ways people explain the data. They either talk about the mean, talk about the mode, or they talk about the median. And sometimes they talk about all three. So it's just a way of describing numbers. Like if I went out and measured 100 people, how tall they were, you don't want me to tell you all 100 numbers. You'd be bored. But you might want to know what's the mean, mode, and median. Those three numbers might be nice to know. So we're going to practice this, and we're going to try a problem. And we'll call it example 1. We're going to say find the mean, median, and mode. That's going to be our directions. Find the mean, median, and mode. And then here's the data we're going to look at. We're going to look at some people's bowling scores. Now, I'm not a great bowler. In fact, I'm happy if I get 100 when I go bowling. But I do like going. And here we've got some people that have been bowling, and they've got their scores written down. In fact, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 people and 8 scores. And we're going to do exactly what the directions want. We're going to find the mean, median, and mode. Let's start with the mean first. And if I'm going fast, pause the video so you can write down all those numbers. Remember how the mean works. We add them all up and divide by how many there are. So we are going to add up 120 plus 205 plus 135 plus 160 plus 125 plus 105 plus 90 plus 160. Kind of ran out of room. It's probably going off your screen here a little bit. But I'm going to add all these up. Here, I'll extend my screen so you can see, I hope, a little better. There you go. Okay, when I'm done, I'm going to divide. So fractions mean divide. And remember there were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 people. So we're going to divide by those 8 people. Okay, well, let's use a calculator. We could do it in our head too, but I'm just going to pull up a calculator. I'm going to add up all these numbers, 120 plus 205 plus 135 plus 160 plus 125 plus 105 plus 90 plus 160. And I get 1,100. Now you want to write that number down. Why do you want to write that number down? Well, because if you were taking a test and you skipped writing down the 1,100 and you ended up getting the wrong answer, your teacher would be like, I wonder if they added it wrong in their calculator. But they couldn't tell because you didn't write the number down. You need to write it down so that we can double check our math later on if it becomes important. So please make sure whatever you type into a calculator shows up on your paper. Whatever happens in your head shows up on your paper. You really want people to understand your work. Now we're going to divide this by 8. And we get, oh, there's an answer, 137.5. So our average score for these bowlers is 137.5 points. There's our average score. Okay, we got our first number. That takes care of this part, mean. Let's go find the median. Remember what median means. It means middle. We look at the M and the D. Now, I can't really find the number in the middle unless I organize the numbers first. Right now, they're just in a table. I can't find the middle number unless I move them from smallest to biggest. So we are going to make a list of the numbers from small to big. What is our smallest score? Well, 90. That bowler didn't get a very high score. So I'm going to cross out 90. What comes after 90? The next smallest? Maybe 105? Yep. So I'll make a little list. 105. After 105, 120, and I see 120 over here. 120, and then 125. Okay. After that, let's see, 135. Cross it out. And then I have 160, 160. Those happened twice. 2 bowlers got the same score. So 160, 160, and then this big 205. I never bowled a 205 in my life. That'd be awesome. Okay, so that takes care of all my numbers. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Good, 8 numbers. All right, so remember what the median means. The median means the middle. So here's how I find the middle. I want to find literally the middle of the numbers. So here's the first and the last. Then I move in. There's the next 2. Move in. There's the next 2. There's my middle. There's 2 numbers in the middle. 125 and 135. So I'm going to circle it. The question is what's in the middle of 125 and 135? What's in the middle of those 2? In the middle of those 2 can be found by doing this. 125 plus 135 divided by 2. If we add those together and divide by 2, we're going to have the very middle of these numbers. So we grab our calculator here. And we're going to do 125 plus 135. That's 260, and we're going to divide by 2, and we get exactly 130. Now, you might have logically been like, well, I kind of knew between 125 and 135 would be 130. But I wanted you to see how to do that in case the numbers were not as easy to figure out. So, okay, so 130 is smack dab in the middle of all these numbers. So my median is 130, and I guess we better write that over here. We're running out of room. The middle number is 130. All right, that takes care of median. Now we got to find mode. Mode is the fastest one to find because mode means most. What number do you see the most of? So are there any numbers that repeated, any bowlers that had the same score, and which score was it? And there was 2 bowlers that had 160. That's the number you see the most in that list. So my mode is 160. I saw that number the most. And now I have my mean, my median, and my mode. So if you asked me about, let's say this was like a bowling team or something, I could tell you that, oh, my bowling team has an average score of 137.5. Or our median bowler is 130 points. The most you'll see in our team is 160. Like that's a way I could kind of describe the data. Okay, so let's try some more of this. Let's try another example that doesn't really have a story, it just has data numbers. Here's my data. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's not bowling scores for sure, but we have a bunch of numbers, 24, 17, 8, etc. We want to find our measures of center. So we're going to find our mean, and then we're going to find our median, and then we're going to find our mode. We want to be able to do all three things. So I think just to help organize my work, I'm going to split this up like so and give myself some space to kind of work out this problem. Starting with the mean first, we know mean equals adding all of these up and dividing. So we're going to add 20 plus 4 plus 17 plus 8 plus 12 plus 9 plus 5 plus 20 plus 13. We're going to add all those numbers and count them. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 numbers. I can double check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Good. So we're going to divide by 9. Okay, get your calculator or start doing it in your head, however you kind of prefer to do it. But we need to add these numbers up. We're going to do 20 plus 4 plus 17 plus 8 plus 12 plus 9 plus 5 plus 20 plus 13. It's 108. So we get equals 108, and we have to divide by 9. So if we take 108 and divide by 9, we get 12. Sweet. So our answer is equal to 12. That is our mean. So I'm going to circle that or put a box around it. Make sure people know that's my final answer. The average score in this data is an average score of 12. There's my mean. Okay, let's move on. Let's find our median. You cannot just go straight to the middle of the numbers. I wish it would be that easy, but we're actually going to have to put them in order first. They're completely out of order. So to find my median, what's the smallest number? Is it 4? I think it is. So I'm going to put the 4 first. I'm going to reorder all these. What's the next smallest number? Oh, there's a 5 and a 9. So I'm going to do the 5 and then the 9. I can cross them both out. Next smallest number, I see 8. Oh, 8 should have gone first. Here's 8, then 9. Good thing we caught that and figured that out. So 8 and then 9. Next we have a 13 and a 12. So we better go 12 and then 13. Then I see this 20. I see a 17 and another 20. So I'm going to go 17 and then 20 and 20. And I think that is all my numbers. I can count them and check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Awesome. Okay, so let's find that median. Let's find that middle number. And don't just kind of guess where the middle is. Use your hands to kind of figure it out. So I'm going to cover up the beginning and the end. Cover those up. Then I'm going to move in one time in and look at that middle number. It's 12. It's smack dab in the middle of our data. Look, if you count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in. So our median is equal to 12. That is our middle number. That's kind of ironic because that was also our mean. So our median and our mean ended up being the same number. That is going to happen sometimes. But not for our mode, not this time. Mode means most. Remember, M-O, most. What number do we see the most of? Well, out of all these numbers, there's not a lot of repeats. 4, 5, 8, 9, 12. None of them repeat except for there are 2 20s at the very end. So our mode is equal to 20 because that's the number we see the most. Doesn't really meet what we have for our mean. Doesn't really match the mean and the median, but it is the number that we have most in the data. Okay, so we will practice this a whole lot more, I hope, in class, but I just wanted you to kind of see what are those 3 ways you can look at like a whole bunch of numbers, and this is the 3 main ways. Mean means average, median means middle, and mode means most, and we got to kind of remember that in our heads, remember how to do that, And the more you practice, the easier it gets, for sure. All right, bye guys.